Speaking of which, Ashley, let's go to the hotline. And let's bring in the Dave Campbell's Texas Football High School Football Insider. We're joined on the phone by Matt Stepp. Hey, Matt.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Are you recovered from yesterday?
Oh, I'm raring to go. It never stops. Realignment just gets my football brain just going crazy for about a good 2 weeks. So we're ready to go.
So I want to ask you kind of from I know you were listening to the show, but I kind of want to ask you from a top line perspective. You know, I was sitting here and on one hand, we didn't really have any big structural shifts as far as realignment is concerned. For example, we didn't have a division split for the first time like we had in 2018. But my question for you is, does this, as far as realignments are concerned, historically, does this feel like a big, another step, or does this feel like a big leap? Do you feel like there were these seismic shifts, or as realignments go, was this pretty ho-hum?
You know, there's a lot to digest, and I don't know if it was ho-hum. I don't think any realignment is ho-hum, but I do agree that, you know, we didn't have the big 5A Division I split. I think this realignment is setting up things down the road for the UIL to make changes later on. You know, what are they going to do in 5A Division I with the division splits and all the opt-ups and some of the issues that's caused, especially this year? And then you've always got the talk of 7A and the growth for the larger schools, and you're seeing it in Houston, where they have 12 districts just in Houston alone now. Mm-hmm. So I think that the continued growth is going to cause the UIL to have to really reevaluate the overall structure as we go into 2022 and 2024.
And as you mentioned that, because the one thing that kind of stands out to me is I think after taking a day to digest it, I think we're going to have to get rid of this notion in my brain, and I think everybody who covers Texas high school football in our brain, of, oh, these teams always go into this region, right? I think that if this is true, the big takeaway for me is that regions are becoming more and more fluid. Basically, unless you're in El Paso or basically, I mean, more, you can't even say in the
or the Rio Grande Valley, you know, the extremes. Yeah.
Unless you're in extremes, it seems like the regional alignments are becoming a lot more fluid for the UIL every 2 years.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of a preview of that in 2018 when Wellington moved into the Region 2, a traditional Panhandle team moving into Region 2. And then we definitely saw it this year, as you mentioned, with San Antonio getting a full district basically in Region 3 at the 5A Division I level. Houston having 4 districts in Region 2, just to name a few items just that jump off the page at me. And you even look in 2A Division 2, teams like Cristobal and El Dorado have been aligned into Region 4, much like Sonora was a couple of years ago. So I definitely think in certain areas the state regions are a lot more fluid, whereas before, really only the I-35 corridor had fluidity amongst the regions, kind of jumping between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, depending on the classification.
We're talking with Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football High School Football Insider here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. Okay. I want to hear now, as far as your top line, like when you take a look at the, I would say, let's stick with like regions or major metro areas. Is there a part of the state that you feel like got particularly shook up, or maybe in your case, I know you were doing mock realignments, is there a particular part of the state that surprised you the most now that the realignments are out, basically compared to maybe what your expectation was?
So, you know, the first thing that jumps off the page at me, and it kind of caught me by surprise, is you have it's not really one particular classification area, but you can kind of pick and choose throughout the different classifications, things that kind of jump off the page. And what I noticed right away was some of the depth in Region 4. I think Region 4 across all classifications is a lot deeper than it has been. You look at some districts, obviously 15 4A Division 1, with the Corpus Christi area jumps off the page. But you look at Division 2, that 13 4A Division 2, that's a 6-deep district. You've got Cuero, LaGrange, Giddings, a Smithville team that's up and coming, Sealy's in there as well. And that's and I think there's another team I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's a really deep district in 13 4A Division 1. And that's a Region 4 district. And then you look at, Division 2. Sorry about that, 13 4A Division 2. 16 4A Division 2. Is a lot deeper now because you've got Sinton, and you got Port Isabel, you got Raymondville, Rio Hondo. That's a deep district, 18 districts. So some of the depth in Region 4 has really, really caught my eye across the board in multiple classifications. Another one that caught my eye was, I believe it's 13-2A Division 1. Shiner, Weimar, Flatonia, Ganado, and Schulenburg. That's an incredibly deep district for the 2A level. Lots of really good teams in that district as well. So Region 4, come playoff time next year, is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
As far as where the big name programs landed, we were talking a little bit about how La Vega ended up sticking in Region 2. Mart ended up sticking in Region 3. Grandview moves over to Region 2. As far as the biggest name programs are concerned, and we're talking about teams that every single year expect to contend for a state championship, there's really only about 50 of those around the state. Are there any that stick out to you that you think, okay, things just got significantly more difficult for them, or maybe on the flip side, maybe things got a little bit easier and the road got a little bit easier? Is there one or two big name programs that you feel like were either particularly helped or particularly hurt by this UIL realignment?
So let's start with hurt. I would say West Orange Stark is definitely hurt. For the past 6 years, in essence, Region 3 and 4A Division 2 has been basically West Orange Stark and maybe one other team who can challenge them. The last couple of years, it's been Silsbee, obviously. Take a look at Region 3 and 4A Division 2 now. It's a lot deeper. You've added China Spring, Carthage, of course, Waco Connolly, and other in teams like that. I think Sealy's in there too. Sealy, I mentioned Sealy in the wrong district. Sealy's in 12 4A Division 2. So I think that division, I think, got a lot deeper, a lot quicker. And so that's going to be a much bigger challenge for West Orange Stark come playoff time. Allen and Duncanville flip-flopping surprised me a little bit. I was very surprised Duncanville moved all the way to District 11, just from an alignment standpoint. I thought that was interesting. And then go down to 2A Division 2, Munster. Munster gets away from Mart, but now they've got to deal with Hamlin and Albany in Region 2 and 2A Division 2. That's gotten a lot tougher for them. And we talked about Gunner, and they got a pretty good draw as far as regional outlooks are concerned in 3A Division 2. But don't sleep on Eastland dropping down from 3A Division 1. With Barron Morton, that could be a team that really challenges Gunner as well. And I think you look at Post, also out in West Texas, the 2A Division 1 runner-up. They've got to deal with Cisco in their own region now, and that makes things a lot tougher, not to mention a San Saba team that's 27-2 the past 2 years.
Ashley, I know you got some questions in the comments. Somebody wants to chime in for Matt Stepp.
So a couple people have asked this. What were the biggest issues caused by 5A opt-ups?
So the biggest issues there is, number one, you look at the actual the split in Division 1, and I believe the smallest Division 1 school is over 18, is almost 1,900. So you've got a real small window there because those opt-ups artificially inflated the number. And then also because of the opt-ups, especially in Region 4, this is what's caused San Antonio to move into Region 3, because so many Region 4 teams opted up from Division 2 to Division 1. It ballooned the number of quote-unquote traditional Region 4 teams in Region 4, which has caused teams like San Antonio Veterans Memorial, San Antonio Harlandale, and San Antonio McCullum to be in Region 3 now, because so many schools that wouldn't have been in Division 1 opted up into Division 1 to balloon that number. That's the biggest thing, and it just causes some real wonky alignments because that has a domino effect across the state of Texas. You look at 4-5A Division 1, and that's kind of one of the weirdest alignments I've ever seen with Red Oak, Burleson Centennial, Mansfield Summit, Mansfield Legacy, in with Northeast Tarrant County schools. Those teams have to drive all the way across the Dallas area for district games because it's kind of just wonked out the alignment, where if those teams wouldn't have opted up, a team like Grapevine, a team like Cleburne would have been in Division 1, but instead, because of the opt-ups, they were placed in Division 2.
And finally, Stepp, I want to hear what's next. We talk a lot about UIL realignment. It feels like this big moment in time, and yet there are next steps now. So for people who maybe aren't familiar with UIL realignment, this is their first time really paying attention to it, what can we expect in the next couple days, weeks, months? What comes next now after the alignments have been announced?
So, teams can appeal their alignment. So, based on various travel issues, that kind of thing. So the UIL will hear those appeals and make decisions based on those appeals in the next usually it's 30 to 45 days it takes to hear an appeal. So someone like Rio Grande City, who I've heard is not going to appeal their alignment, but Rio Grande City would be a great example of someone who may have a case. You look at their district alignment with all their trips are, I believe, 3+ hours for the most part. They might have a case that they wanted to appeal their alignment. So the UIL will hear any alignment appeals, and then after those appeals are heard, the districts are basically set for the next 2 years, barring someone at the 2A Division II level dropping 11-man football and going 6-man mid-realignment cycle.
He's Matt Stepp. He's Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider. Follow him on Twitter at Matt_Stepp817. He has had his finger on the pulse of UIL realignment. Yesterday was a big day for him. You're all tuckered out, buddy?
Well, a little bit. I'm gonna give me a Dr. Pepper and just kind of relax the rest of until we go to College Station on Friday.
We are looking forward to it, my friend. Thanks, Stepp. Appreciate you hopping on with us.
Later.
There he goes, Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, high school football insider, joining us here on Texas Football Today. Of course, lots of big doings in UIL realignment. We're going to have you covered. If we're not getting to your question today, don't worry. On Friday, we're going to do a big realignment mailbag. So if we don't answer your question the next couple of days, come in on Friday and we will answer your questions.